Though it doesn't look as though we've got so much business today, so we might possibly finish within the 90 minutes, which would be good. So,
come on, Mary, you can do
it.
Don't go making promises, Mary.
Anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you. I don't see any members of the public. Is that? Did anybody say they were coming, Rich?
No.
No. Okay. Well, nobody here. That's fine then. So that's yes, open session dealt with. Right. Item 88. Recording, no members, so that doesn't apply. We have no members of the public here, so no additional recording. Oh, here's Judith. Right. Apologies for absence. Two apologies for lateness. That's all, isn't it? Yep. No more. Item 90. Members and officers' personal and disclosable pecuniary interests in items on the agenda. Does anybody have anything to declare?
I've got a personal interest on number 12 on the list. Just someone I know.
Thank you. Thanks. Any more? No. Right. Written requests for new DPI dispensations. Anything? Any written requests? No. No. Right. Thank you. Any items to be discussed in private session? Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Hi, Paul.
You're early.
Hello. You're hardly late.
You started early.
We just no, not quite. We just started bang on time. So anyway,
Bang on time.
Yeah, bang on time. Yes. Yeah. Okay. No items to be discussed in private session then. Yeah. Right. Confirm the minutes of the previous meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. Open.
Okay. So I think that was Pat. Yeah. Seconded by Tom. Fine. Thank you. Completed Kirklees planning applications list, item 94. We are aware, I don't know if anybody else noticed, that three of the planning applications were missing from the list that was put up on the website. But the cut really matters. So there were a couple that were actually out of the area in Kirkburton, and then item 28 was support for an application at 16 New Road, Netherthorne. Okay, so noted. Okay, somebody noted that list. Thank you. Right, on to the new planning applications. Item 95. Okay. So the first one, Pat.
I just put to support it. Looks completely uncontentious to me.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Anybody else support?
Yeah.
Gosh, we'll be finished in no time. This right. Number 2, 1 Meltham House. Tom, this was.
Yeah.
You were looking at this one.
Them ones on. Yeah, I know this one well where it is. It's in the middle of nowhere pretty much. It's just a small row of houses. It's not going to impact anybody. It's absolutely fine.
Okay, support. People are happy to support. Thank you. Right, and number 3, Paul, it's yours and mine, number 3. 30 Scolesmore Road. Single and 2-story.
Which is number? I don't know which number 30 is.
Right, it looked okay. It looked okay to me.
Whereabouts in Scolesmore Road is it?
Anybody else look
Whereabouts in Scolesmore Road, Mary?
It's
Mary.
It's one. Yeah, okay. It's going in towards Jackson Bridge. It's one of those on the left. It's one of those newish semi-detached houses on the left. It's kind of.
Going into Jackson Bridge.
It's. Sorry, no, it's definitely Sculls. But it's not. It's sort of in the centre, quite close to the estate.
Just above the estate.
Near where Cross Lane, not that far from where Cross Lane goes off.
Cross Lane.
On the left, going down, towards Jackson Bridge. They're not that new now.
Below Robert's.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
it looks okay to me. They're pretty
Okay.
undistinguished buildings. So are we
Yeah.
happy to
Okay.
Yeah,
support
looks
it?
fine.
You okay? Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Over the page. Right. Tom, were you able to look at this one?
Yeah, Haddonway Lane, Cumberworth.
Yep.
It's where there's a workshop joint onto a farm or building at the moment, and it's just extended into the workshop to put another bedroom in there. It's like the last one, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. It won't cause any problems or anything like that. It's only really small minor adjustments, so I'm absolutely fine with it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Have a look
look,
at
it
that.
looks fine.
Have you spotted? I don't like the window on the gable end, but I mean, that's a minor consideration. Right. Okay, happy to support that one. Yeah, thank you. Moving on, number 5, which is 18 Sheerdale, and it's back to you, Pat, I think.
I looked at this, I just said support, it looked completely unremarkable.
Okay, anybody else? I thought it was all the same. Yeah, okay, happy support. Thank you. And right, the next one is a variation of conditions, which is about amended highways proposals. Rachel, did you have?
Yeah, I had a look at it. To be honest, it all seemed quite technical about turning circles and visibility displays and all that sort of thing. So I was minded to leave it to the Kirklees officer.
Yeah, yeah, yes, I would agree. I struggled to try and understand it and couldn't really. So yeah.
They've been put on for a reason. As long as the applicant can explain to the council officer the reason for wanting these things altering, or whether he has got round the problems in one way, shape or form. If they've got round the problems, it's a funny site, is that. It's a bad access, and they've got to get it spot on.
Right. Yeah.
So I think as long as it's right with highways,
Okay,
it'll be right with
Paul.
other
Right.
things.
So we're saying no observation, but refer to Kirklees highways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Castellini did comments.
She did. Yeah.
I'm going to read that out. I mean,
It was a very long comment, wasn't it?
It was a very long comment, yeah.
Have you got it in front of you?
Yeah, she said, can you hear me very well? Because I'm talking to other people. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're a bit broken for me, but I can make you out.
Yeah, you lot are broken for me as well. I've got a very bad connection. So she said support. Variations address need to concentrate on getting this road to the property sorted before the erection of any houses. Visibility is an issue as the development is getting near to the bed, which could cause problems with the highways. The 1 metre height all seems reasonable for road safety issues. In general, we'll not be against development here, as the place is quite unsightly. Does need to be monitored closely as regards the issue of the closed landfill and the number of houses proposed, as they will lead to increased traffic build-up into Greenfield Road. Okay.
She'd actually been up to see it, hasn't she? Which I thought was highly commendable.
Absolutely.
But I think she's agreed. Well, she agrees with.
Yeah.
She's agreeing with us. Right. Thank you. Let's move. Right. So move on to item number. Application number 7. Right. Which is 40 Fab Banks. Which
I
was
thought
down for Michael,
support. I couldn't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody
I'd agree,
else? Look.
yeah.
Great. Okay. We're happy with that. Right. Thanks. And application number 8, which is Darrell's. Did anybody else have a look?
I had a look. It looked fine to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a look too. I thought it was.
Is there enough parking taking away the garage? Is there sufficient parking taking the garage away?
Well, the highways, Kirklees Highways seem to think there was. I mean, that was their comment. So
Okay.
they were happy with that. I guess we're happy. So support.
Okay. Yeah, spoil it.
Thank you. Right, number 9 was Well, we're expecting comments from either Darryl or Judith, but obviously we didn't. Judith, there weren't. Rich, there were only comments from Bernie, were there this time?
I've got comments from Judith.
You've got some from Judith, right?
Yeah, Councillor Bellamy, and
right.
a few kind of no comments.
Okay, no comments. Right. Was it?
Councillor Roberts said happy to support materials in keeping.
Right. Okay.
Can I suggest that we ask people who can't come to send their comments to the chair as well as to the clerk? It seems only courteous.
I think that was what was told, but it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, it doesn't always happen. I mean, Bernie did send hers to me, but it does help. Of course, it would help if I've got them in advance. I had a look at this one. I thought it was okay. So support, yes, support. Thank you. Right, number 10, which I had a kind of question over the parking on this one. Rachel, did you?
Yeah, it was
look at this?
It was a bit funny, wasn't it? Because I think didn't Highways say that they were acknowledged it might restrict the parking, but then they weren't worried about it because there was on-street parking around there.
Yeah,
is that right? It seemed a bit odd to me.
It is that one. Kirklees Highways comments seemed a little strange to me. Yeah.
I mean, overall, I thought it was probably fine, but yeah, I did think it was a bit odd to openly accept a reduction in parking and then say, well, it's fine because you could just park elsewhere.
You can park on.
I mean, they're right. In that area, there is normally space along the pavements. Even at school pickup time, if you go that far, you go down towards where that little bridge is, before you go out onto the Woodhead Road, and there is space. So I'm not.
Yeah.
Did Bernie give comments on that one?
Yes, she did.
She said support. Highway states that parking spaces are acceptable for the side property, and although the extension of the building near to the boundary, it doesn't impinge on neighbours' space. So she thought as well.
Support. She's supporting it. So support. Be happy with that. Support. Thank you. And number 11, which is 9 Paris Mews, which is Paul and I again. Yeah.
I don't think there's a problem with that. No problem.
No problem. No, I couldn't find any reason to object anyway. So yeah, okay. Support.
No.
Support. Thank you. Thanks. Number 12, the wool store. This would be Darryl's. Yeah, I mean, I had a look. This is a large detached house with a pond. Well, no, yeah, perhaps not just a pond with a body of water behind it. It looked okay. It looked okay to me, and they'd taken pre-application advice, which was that it was a fairly modest extension given the size of the building and the size of the building. So I would yeah, happy to support it. Anybody else look at it and have any views? No.
I did look at it, but as I say, I know the person who's there, so I'm not.
Oh, is this the one?
Vote on it, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, sorry, number 12. Support. Right. The next one, number 13, which is 46 Station Road, Honley.
Yeah, it looks.
I'd be interested
There's
to know what you think.
There's a neighbour whinging, and they're saying it's too near their house, which I have to say I don't agree with. And they're also saying they'll lose some sunlight in the garden because it's a story high. I have to say,
Oh dear.
Pardon?
Oh dear.
Sorry, I said, oh dear.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm inclined to support it, to be honest, because they've both got enormous gardens. So
Yeah, I mean, I had a good look at this one, and I had a few kind of reservations about it. The extensions are enormous. I mean, it's not just one extension; it's 3 bits of extension, and it just seems to be not subservient to the existing building. I mean, the size of the extension seems kind of out of line with the size of the building.
It's in line with the size of the garden. If you look at that. I mean,
yeah, the gardens, yes, but not. Yeah, the gardens are enormous.
In a quarter of the garden, even the new version. So.
Yeah. So,
I don't have strong feelings about it.
Right. Did anybody else look at this one?
Patty, is it do you think the neighbours jealous of these people because they can afford to do some extravagant work?
It wasn't expressed like that, Paul. I didn't really pick that up, but sometimes you do. You're quite right. I think this was, we're going to lose some sun in that corner in the afternoon. And they were saying and as far as I could see, the building was no nearer their property than the original building was. Just taller, but they were claiming it was taller, and they were saying they're losing privacy at the side. Well, the side only looks on their drive and their side door. It doesn't look into their garden. So I honestly don't know how much shade they'll get, but I'm not sure you can object on the grounds of losing a bit of sun in your garden. I don't think
you can, having read the SD supplementary planning documents. Rachel?
Yeah,
sunning garden being SUN?
Yes. Yeah.
Not SON.
Yes. I made no inquiries about their family, Paul.
No.
Rachel?
Well, there are a few things I thought. I mean, the extension is huge, but so I'm not sure that it is subservient to the existing building. So I guess that was one reservation. I see the plot's enormous, but I was conscious it doesn't show any. I don't know the specific site short of.
It's the road leading up to Honley High School.
I know. Sorry, I know where the road is. I just can't picture the site. So I didn't think it was very helpful that they hadn't shown the impact on parking, for example. But I imagine with a garden that large, they've probably got quite a large drive to go with it.
I think they all have drives. Yeah.
But I think that's quite important on Station Road, because I think that was raised by the neighbour as well, wasn't it, about the impact on parking?
I only remember the closeness, the proximity, and the shadow.
I think Kirklees Highways have concerns about the parking because the extensions will increase the number of bedrooms to 5, and they're very clear that there should be no parking on the road because it is opposite. The high school, it's very busy at certain times. There wasn't much information. The Kirklees Highways were saying they needed more information really before they could come to us. So I wonder if
I missed the comment from Highways. Sorry.
Yeah, I just should. If I suggest that we say that we're not making any observation because and refer to Kirklees officers.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you people happy with that?
Insufficient information.
Insufficient.
Would it not be better to say we support it subject to Highways?
Well,
I'm not sure we do.
Because the highway map.
No, the problem is, Paul, I think there's also a problem with the sheer size of this thing. It's bigger than the house, or it seems to be on the plan. It's certainly as big as the house, or that's how it looks on the plan to me. I'm no technical expert, but it is a huge extension.
And you can have loss of light as a material consideration.
Yes.
So I think we should say.
Yes.
So I think we should probably say insufficient information to clarify highways and impact on neighbours' light.
And if it's subservient to the building, I mean, I think it wants checking.
They'll check. They'll definitely check. Yeah. Right. Okay. Is that all right? Rich, that's fine. Got the gist of that then. Thank you. Right, moving on to the 43, the Oval. Did Judith have a view on this?
Yes, same as the last one. Happy support subject to materials in keeping.
Yeah. Yes, anybody else look at it?
Looked fine.
Yeah, it looked okay. I mean, on street view, it looked as though the neighbouring property had pretty much an identical extension at the front. So I think so. Support. Number 15. 13 Cuckoo Lane in a conservation
I want
area.
this to go back to offices. I mean, there are quite a lot of neighbour objections. Several of them are referred to the danger of sliding, removing trees from a steep bank down to Thurston Road. Several of them say it's been refused before, just in principle. It's not a particular plan, So I think we need the expertise of officers on this one. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I would, yes.
We should just review.
Anybody? Oh, sorry, Rachel.
I think Tom was first.
Tom. Oh, you first, Tom. Sorry.
I was going to say, if you've got problems with that, we should just refuse it. We refuse it on trees and.
Well, I don't know whether I want to refuse it, Tom, because it's all neighbour hearsay in this application, and I don't remember it from the past. I mean, it may have gone. I may have seen it and forgotten it, but I don't. So it's not actually part of the application. It hasn't gone to an officer. There's no report from the Kirklees saying it looks okay to us.
Rachel.
Well, I'll sort of echo what Tom says. I think we should object to it. I think there's reasons for the fact it's in the curtilage of a Grade 2 listed building and will have a detrimental impact. I mean, looking at the site, I don't understand how they could build a house there without having a.
Well, I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't buy a house on that site.
Yeah. But I know there's reference to the importance of the wall by some of the neighbours, and yes, they're just views by neighbours. But I think we should be mindful. There's quite a few objections, and personally, I think there's justification in what they say about the impact on both the environment, the view, and the, as I say, being in the curtilage of a Grade 2 listed building. I think we should recommend refusal on that background. And obviously, curtilage officers will have to look at it in detail. Clearly, it has got some planning history.
Are we happy? We're now. That was I thought opposed when I looked at it.
I think.
Paul,
I think what Tom said earlier. It goes back a lot even further than what he can remember. I think this site's been applied for on more than one occasion, and I think in previous occasions it's been resisted and refused because of I think the thing about the trees and one thing and another. I think a point was made about the stability of the land and how in the site to build on it, and that I don't think it's the right place.
I mean, I think some of the neighbours objecting, they listed the previous planning applications.
Yeah, several of them
there is a long history. So I think we're obviously moving towards opposing this, aren't we? We're happy to oppose. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There were really only 17, weren't there, Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only read 17.
I nearly checked with Rich because.
Have you missed 3 pages off?
I thought, gosh, what's happened here? And I thought, no, maybe it's lockdown. Maybe. Sorry, Tom.
It gets a bit quieter around Christmas and this time of year.
Yeah, and I guess COVID isn't going to help either, is it? I'm surprised at how much we've had through in the past. Right, we've only a couple to go then. So number 16, which is 246 Woodhead Road, which is a garden shed. Rachel?
Yeah, it's just replacing a shed with a garden room. It's sort of it's kind of set back off the road, and it's quite high up, and I see no reason to oppose it, so I'd support it.
I've got a comment from Councillor Tommy.
Yep.
Yeah, she said, I've been to see it and it's okay by me.
Good.
Right.
Okay, support. Yeah, people happy, support. Thank you. And finally, this is an interesting one, Springfield Barn. Somebody wanting to remove a condition, which the condition removed their permitted development rights. Rachel, views on this?
I've got to be honest, I didn't really understand this application, so I was minded to leave it to Kirklees because it was all about the technicality of what should be in permitted development and all the restrictions on it before, and I couldn't quite fathom it, if I'm honest. So I'd rather just leave it to the expert officer to review it.
Okay.
Should we say no observation? Are we happy to?
Do you want
it must have been put on for a reason, Mary. When they got permission to convert this barn, it's some number of years ago. I think it'd been 97, according to this.
There's masses of documentation with it, and the reason that condition was put on to remove the permitted development rights was because it was in a green belt. And amongst the evidence that that we were sent. I quite a few cases that have gone to the planning inspectors, and it looked as though in all cases they thought this was unfair, because the house next door has still got its permitted development rights, the one it's joined to, and so do all other buildings in the green belt. It just seemed an unnecessary. Well, at least that was the contention.
I think if Kirklees have put this on, we leave it on and let them go to the Secretary of State or to who and appeal against it to get it lifted. And if they do it, then it's above our head and we can't take into account that. But at our level, I think we should look to leave it as it is.
So shall we say no observation?
Did Councillor Bellamy have a comment?
No, it is no observation. It's that we wish to support Kirklees' condition 5 that was put on at the time, and wish it to remain as the same.
I don't know. Anybody else?
If we've no observation, we're more or less saying yes, we allow it. And I think we should at this stage support the Kirklees officers that were in operation at the time for the action that they took.
Oh, no, I don't know. I'm not quite so sure. I'm not so sure about that. Rachel?
I think I would rather support the Kirklees officers' review of it at this stage in light of the new changes. But did Councillor Bellamy have a comment on this one?
She said, well, she objected to it. She said on the basis that the condition is no permitted development rights to extend, and it lies in the green belt.
Mm.
So that's my view, that we leave it be as it is and support the officers of the day that put the recommendation on.
So are we agreeing to support Kirklees officers' decision? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
That, yeah.
Okay. Shall we do that? Support Kirklees officers' decision. Right. Right. Just perhaps before we move on to the next item, I just wonder if anybody attempted to apply our suggested new ways of working to this relatively small list. Did anybody give it any thought?
I couldn't really. Well, in the ones I looked at, I couldn't see any things that leapt out as. I kind of logged them. So if we'd applied our ideas, I think it would. Well, I think it would have gone no observation on 13 of them. Consider one because it was in a conservation area. One because it was a variation of conditions. One because it was in a conservation area and there were neighbour objections, and one because it was removal of conditions and hello Michael, and in the green belt. So that would have meant that we'd look at 4 out of the 13. Oh right. How will we
well perhaps
filter them?
Well, should we leave this till to the later item in the agenda? I just thought at this point I'd link it to the planning applications we've just looked at.
Just to ask a quick question on that, Mary, would any of the ones where we objected, which I think was 2, would they have been caught in what we would have looked at? Number 15 we would have considered. That's the 13 Cuckoo Lane as neighbour objections and conservation area. And the other one? 13. Station Road.
What's 13?
The gigantic extension.
The gigantic extension. No, you see, no, we would have. We wouldn't have looked at that one.
Well, we did say we wanted to refer it back to officers, so
yes,
in effect,
we did.
that's what we've done, isn't it?
Yes, it would. Yes, the outcome would be the same, wouldn't it? Yeah. Right. Okay. Welcome, Michael.
You're mute.
Muted.
Sorry, I'm late. Hi.
It's fine. Hi, Michael. He's muted again. Right, moving on to item 96, Kirklees Council planning officers' decisions. The was document E, and there was no there were no conflicts there. That we more or less we were in agreement really with Kirklees Council. Subsequently had I don't know if you remember the decking at Summervale, the big huge decking at Summervale. We just had a letter from Kirklees saying that they've refused they've refused that, and parish council we said yes.
They're going to have fun taking that down.
Okay, so anyway,
presumably they'll be enforced to take it down, won't they?
The list of decision notices from 26th of October to 17th of November. Somebody noted.
Noted.
Noted. Okay, thank you. Right, moving on to interesting stuff. 97 neighbourhood planning, and I think it's good news.
It is good news. I'm just
good news.
Reminding myself of the dates, looking at my other screen. Yeah, the good news is Kirklees Cabinet have given the neighbourhood plan a green light to go to the next stage, which is good news. So basically what they did, it doesn't mean they agree with all of it, far from it. What it actually means is they accept that it meets the statutory requirements and that we've gone through all the necessary procedures, and it's allowed to go to the planning independent planning inspector for review, or examiner, I think is the technical term. And the other thing it means is it goes to its final phase of public consultation, which is called Regulation 16, and that's done by Kirklees Council, obviously covering the fact this is all done in conjunction with the Peak District National Park. Obviously they just cover a little bit, but it is a joint decision. So from the 8th of December for 8 weeks, I haven't worked out what week that means it finishes, but I guess it's sometime in February, early February. It goes out to Regulation 16 consultation, which allows people to give their comments. Those comments then get collated by Kirklees, and all those comments are then sent to the examiner with Kirklees' input, Peak District's input, and obviously our plan. And the examiner looks at it all and then decides whether they want to talk to us. We're expected to be asked questions and things on it. And then the examiner will make their recommendation of the plan to go ahead unchanged, or most likely the plan to go ahead with modifications, or reject it entirely. Hopefully the latter. Now, in terms of just practicalities, just so everyone knows, through this consultation phase, we'll be supporting Kirklees in terms of raising awareness of the fact that this consultation is happening by updating the neighbourhood plan page on our website. So I will update the text so it reflects this latest development, and send it to Rich so he can update it ready for the 8th of December. We've also put a bit in the Home Valley Review in our parish news section that provides the link so people can go on to consultation. And a bit nearer the time, I'll make sure all councillors have got the details so they can send them round to any groups that they're involved in. Obviously, I will circulate it through the steering group, who then are plugged into all their community groups they represent. So it gives people an opportunity to have their final says, if they wish to have them, about that plan. So it's going through the next phase. It's a very slow process, but we'll get there in the end.
Good. Right.
Well done, Rachel.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done, Rachel, and the rest of the team.
The steering group, I should say. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, congratulations. Right. The Peak District, item 98, Peak District National Park Authority. To note, first of all, list 2021-04 PD updated with the views of the committee. So noted. Happy?
Noted, yeah.
Noted, thank you. And then the second part, the list of decision notices from the 26th of October to 17th of November. Again, there was no conflict with the views of the committee. And I don't know if you remember number 8, the village right in the middle of home. They're wanting new road access, and we raised highways concerns, and the Peak District National Park Planning Authority have refused it. So yeah, we're on the right lines there, so that's good. Okay, moving on to ways of working for the Planning Standing Committee. In line with the comments that were made at the last meeting, I edited my original document and have circulated it. Anybody? So the idea was that we'd hold off making a decision at the last meeting, and we'd make a decision whether or not to move to these new procedures at this meeting, to give people time to sort of reflect on and perhaps have a dummy run at a few applications. I don't know, does anybody want to make any observations? Tom?
Yeah, my only concern is like we've gone through the applications today. We're happy with a lot of them. So you get something like a side extension that comes in. We look at it and we think, yeah, that's fine, it's good. Kirklees look at it and they don't like it. According to these new rules, I think we're planning on, we would just say no observation with that, because it's not something that we've got particular concerns about. But if I think sometimes we need to support the residents, and by saying that we support it, and if Kirklees then come back and say no, we can at least go back and say, well, we supported you about this. And I think that might be missing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the final point is that the final bullet point, which is applications about which individual councillors have particular concerns, and also the first one is residents have raised concern. Do you think that perhaps doesn't quite cover it?
Yeah,
Tom?
it's just that. Yeah, it's just that like you do get sometimes which Kirklees do randomly. Most of the time, when decisions differ between us and Kirklees, it's when we're saying they should refuse it and Kirklees approve it. But there are the odd occasion where we do approve of something and then Kirklees decides to refuse it for some reason. So it's just when that actually does happen, which is quite rare. But I think sometimes, like if we show the backing of the residents, at least we can go back to them and say we supported you on this. It's a difficult one.
Mm. Pat?
How would we work it? Would we have a two-stage planning meeting, one where we go through them all at home and send emails to you or response to the clerk or whoever saying, I don't think we need to discuss any except 2, 7 and 12 or whatever, or what?
I know Michael's going to come in. Can I just answer that first, Michael? No, I mean, my view was we'd go through the planning applications as we do now, looking, because it's mostly if it's a conservation area or it's a green belt or it's a discharge of conditions, that's pretty obvious. So that we do that, we do that individually, and then we'd come together and go through them. So that would allow any council who's got particular interest in a particular application then to raise that as we go through them. I certainly wasn't thinking of a kind of cumbersome two-stage process, because the whole point is really to conserve our time to do.
So how will it be different? How is it different then? If all we do is turn up and go through all the ones that have been submitted, what's different?
Well, if we're going through it by ourselves, if we notice that it's a listed building consent, we would say no observation. We're supporting the decisions of Kirklees officers. We do that individually, and then we just go through them in the same way as we've just done. And because we may have slightly different interpretations of what these mean, I guess. But it's partly to it's to save us some time at home trawling through lots and lots of documentation, which it's difficult to follow for us. Sorry, Michael and then Rachel. You muted, Michael.
I've unmuted myself now.
Thank you.
I just didn't have a chance to unmute myself when you got me in and then shouted at me for me not muting.
Oh, but, sorry.
Yeah. I just kind of say, I mean, our response is the response of the Home Valley Parish Council Planning Committee, isn't it? Mm. So I think if there's something that we have discussed at committee and we're happy with it to go ahead, I think we can support that. If it's not something that we've actually discussed, we've just sort of said, well, this is referred it straight back to Kirklees, or it's not something we can, if we don't look at it like we normally do, I think it's very hard to support something that you've not actually, the committee's not fully looked at. So I think in such incidences, we should put no observations. So that's kind of I can't see how we can support something without giving it the full look at it. And I think it's quite fine to put something no observations if it's something that we don't consider something that's, like you say, listed building consent or a discharge of condition which pertains to something that a lengthy report that only the officers are going to read and we're not going to read. Then I think it's quite fine for us to go no observations. But if we have looked at something, I think we can support it. But I just can't see how you can support something you've not had a really good look at it. But I think it's quite fair to put no observations.
I mean, I did. Sorry, Rachel. In response to your comment at the last committee meeting, I thought I'd adjusted the the bullet points to cover that. So the sentence about assume all applications are supported unless one of the and I've deleted that. So to standard reply about no observation. Rachel.
I think it's right that if we haven't looked at the plans, etc., then we can't really say whether we support or refuse them. But I suppose the bit I'm struggling with a bit now is sort of go full circle really, is that unless we do look at them, then we can't give a comment, and if we don't look at them, then what's the point in saying that we're going to look at planning applications to the planning committee? Because the difficulty is, if an individual, I'm just thinking, if an individual councillor has particular concerns, let's say I have concerns over, I don't know, application 3 on the list. If everybody else thought that one was no observation, so wasn't bothered about it, then we'd face a situation where they therefore didn't look at any of the plans. Then I might arrive and say, I think we should refuse it because of this, that, and the other. And then the other committee members will say, well, I didn't look at it, so I can't give a view. So then we're kind of in a situation where we're not able to perhaps look at it as a committee. And yes, obviously as an individual I could put in an objection, but if we're trying to provide a view as a committee, that's where and I can see why. I don't want a two-stage process, but I can see how you could end up in that situation where you almost have to preemptively say, right, I'm going to want to talk about 6, 12 and 13, and other people say, well, I better make sure I've looked at those so I know where they are and what the issues are. So I suppose I'm talking myself out of reducing our list, short of the, so sorry about this, Mary. I think the list of buildings consent, discharge conditions and tree preservation orders, provided they have arboricultural reports, which we used to have as our stock reply a while ago, should be fine. I'm fine with those all being no observation, but and whilst the ones with tiny extensions or extra porches, or conservatories turning into garden rooms, I tend to quickly glance at, check where they are, and go, yeah, that's fine. I don't look at them with the level of detail that I do with the ones that are in that category that you've got down below. But I suppose I feel we're potentially, and sorry, as I say, I feel like I've sort of gone full circle in this whole argument to try to reduce the list and then increasing it again. But unless some of us have looked at it, even if one of us has strong views, we can't then make an agreement as a committee, so there'd end up being no observation for most of them.
Yeah, it's like Paul.
It bothers me. Over the last 40 years, or nearly 40 years, originally the planning officer met up with the chairman of the committee and went through every planning application. The chairman, it then went that they would not meet. We then got paper copy, and every meeting of the council, 10 minutes before, they were put out and you got a chance to have 10 minutes to look at these things. Now everything is changing. If you've no computers or no interest in computers, you can't find anything, you can't see anything. Kirklees Council are taking everything away from Valley, not just individual ones. It got to the point whereas they were just individual ward councillors that knew it. People like me that know every inch of the valley, all the planning application sites, but I don't see anything now because I don't go on the computer to look at it. It doesn't interest me to go on computers. Computers can't tell me what plans can tell you. Kirklees have got it in a situation now, and they're trying to hoodwink you, Mary, I think, into thinking, right, less importance, less of them, that means there's less work for us. And it's trying to make it easy, and not for the people, and not for the benefit of the people. And I'm sorry, but any new changes, I'm dead against, because I don't think it's for anybody's interest. If we want to make meetings 10 minutes long by reducing everything, fine, let's not have them. And we might as well give up and not bother.
It wasn't a Kirklees initiative, Councillor Dixon. It was people in the planning committee looking to how they could pay more attention to strategic things and less attention to dormer windows.
Well, I don't think you're doing yourselves any favours by
No, I
doing
take
that.
your point. I take your point. I do take your point. I just wanted you to know it wasn't Kirklees telling us to do it.
Well, they usually are.
But not this time.
Not in this case, no. So, any more comments? I think I mean, I take Rachel's point that if one of us has a particular interest in one application, but nobody else might, then only one of us will have looked at it. So that is patently not going to work, because that isn't the view of the committee, is it? I'm just wondering if we perhaps delete all of that second bullet point, which is for all other applications.
I haven't seen it. I haven't had access to these bullet points. I've no idea what you're talking about.
Right. Well, it was one of the documents, wasn't it? Would have been sent to you, presumably.
I haven't seen it.
Copy.
I haven't seen it.
Right. I think we discussed
copies.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Do you not get sent printed copies of the committees you're on?
Paper copy I get, but I didn't get a copy of that, I don't think. I haven't seen it.
Should be one of the documents.
Should have done. It was
in with all the others, Paul.
Yeah.
Right. Right, okay, it must be there that I haven't seen it. I've just had another look through now and couldn't find it.
It's just one single sheet, Paul.
Right.
Can I share my screen? I've got it up. If someone lets me share my screen, I can just put it quickly up and you can see the paragraph that we're talking about.
I won't be able to read it, Michael, because it's a bit too small for me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, all right, that's right. So if we delete that second bullet point, which starts for all other applications record, no observation. So a standard reply which would leave us with a standard reply for 3 types of applications: listed building consents, discharge of conditions, and tree preservation orders. Is that? I mean, is that maybe that's just not enough to in a sense to worry about.
You can forget about trees as far as I'm concerned. That maybe we just leave things be and continue as we are. I mean, obviously we whipped through the applications quickly tonight. There weren't so many of them.
I was going to say, I mean, I'm happy for things to stay as they are when it's like tonight and we only have 17. When we have 30 and 40 of them, I'm a lot less happy about it, quite frankly.
Sorry, I'm just butting in. I do apologise. I'll try and respect the chair in future. I think Mary's done quite a lot of work on this, and I think it's a good piece of work and what have you. And you know, I think we should, rather than not go with all of it, if we can't agree that to adopt the last paragraph that we're talking about, that I hope I've got the right paragraph here. The for all other applications, no observation unless one of the following applies.
Yeah.
You know, if we can't agree on that, then I'm quite happy to take that out and then just leave it with this stuff above. Standard observations. You know, I think I think you've done a good piece of work. Some progress has been made, and I'd be quite happy to support that.
Fine. So is that a proposal?
That's my proposal.
That's your proposal.
I found it amongst other things. I was thinking it meant something else when I saw the heading. I didn't read it.
I think so. That's a proposal from Michael and seconded by Rachel, I think. Yeah. And that's what I was grasping towards as well. Yeah. So should we in favour of that? So we can monitor how we go. So in favour of that proposal, that's Paul, are you not?
I'm not fully with it yet. So
you're not fully with it yet. It's a clear majority anyway. So perhaps so we delete that second bullet point.
I think we should continue to think about it and have reviews every, maybe every couple of years, saying other ways we can cut down on the trivia. And
Michael,
we have voted on it, so that gives us 6 months before we can look at it again, which gives us a reasonable time to see what's happening, what's working, and what's not.
Okay, people happy with that? Yeah. See how we go. Thank you. Thanks very much. Right, now the next item which Darrell was going to report on is the Kirklees Council consultation on supplementary planning documents. If you remember at the last meeting, Darrell agreed to collate comments. I'm not sure how many I haven't had a conversation with him actually, but I'm not sure how many he's had. He's had some from me and he's
from me.
Rachel.
Sorry, he hasn't had comments from me yet, but I was just going to say I've had an email from Darrell earlier because I forwarded him the draft response that Margaret Dale was putting together from Home Valley Vision about it. two things just to mention before I talk about what Daryl's put in his email, which is that the consultation date has changed. It was the 30th of November, it's now 14th of December, so there's a bit more time to refine a reply. But Daryl's email said, I've had input from 3 councillors before the comment deadline, and he said, I drafted an initial response which I forwarded to Richard and circulated within an email. I must admit, I'm not conscious of having seen the content of it.
No, I haven't had it.
This was a week. This was a week last Friday. I've had some useful input from Mary and have detailed within the response that the council has given individual councillors the freedom to respond on an individual basis should they wish to do so. The drafted initial response was short, simply detailing the above. If councillors wish to add to this simple group response, they can do so, and I will endeavour to deliver a final version for this coming Friday. Hope this helps. So that's what I think he was, presumably he was hoping to be tonight's meeting, but he'd sent that at 6 o'clock today. I was conscious I hadn't seen a response, but I didn't know if I'd missed one, so sounds like I haven't.
Well, the only response he sent to me was that he was planning to basically say it would be deferred to the opinion of individual councillors, that it wouldn't be a sort of drafted response from the council as a collective, as a whole. It was that's the email I got.
Right.
I think, Mary, all the idea of this is sound, but it seems, reading it, supplementary planning documents, it refers as if it's everything global. Every application should be checked on its merits. Certain items, certain applications will be larger, others will be smaller. Some will have problems with access, some will have problems without, have no problem with access. Some are onto good roads, some are onto bad roads. I think everyone is separate, and I don't think you can put a document together which speaks for everything, that no green fields should be built on. But I think if there's a need, and it can be proven, that we've got to take everything on its merits and everything to be set separately. I might be wrong in my views, but
right. Sorry, Rachel. I was saying what I was going to say. Rachel.
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
I think, Councillor Dixon, I think there are 4 supplementary planning documents, and I must admit I've only looked at them in detail today, which is slightly after Daryl's deadline, so I apologise for that. But one of them is a householder's design guide, which basically takes you through all the different elements of designing any new house, and it goes through all the elements of what it should look like, the materials, the accessibility, the environmental impact, all that. I mean, it's a fairly comprehensive guide. I think overall the guides are quite good. But I think there are certain elements where they seem to just encourage rather than perhaps be more assertive about what they want to see with impacts of climate change and engagement with the community and that sort of thing. But there's 4 documents. So one's about the design of buildings, basically the houses. The second is about house extensions and alterations. And personally, I think that's a really good document. It's got loads of diagrams of what's an acceptable extension on sides of houses, sides of houses, all that sort of thing. It's really easy to look at, and I think quite pretty useful to us. Then there's an open space supplementary planning document, which talks about the role of when developments arrive, how they contribute to open spaces. And what's interesting in that is the Home Valley, both north and south, is deficient in terms of its open space amount per resident. So arguably the developments that have happened recently, to my knowledge, haven't delivered any improvement in that open space provision, be it play space or playing fields or parks or allotments. And I don't know if that's because we haven't heard about them or because the contributions are made elsewhere. So obviously we've had lots of new developments in Cinder Hills, Haydoge, Stoles, places like that, Neverthall. And my understanding is that none of those have led to improvements, or no visible improvements, let's say, in open green spaces. So the fact that there is quite a clear document that says what should happen for any developments over the size of 10 houses, and is quite clear, and it's got charts that show what applies when, again, seems really positive to me. I would reflect on the fact that that doesn't seem to be happening at the moment, but I don't know if that's lack of knowledge on my part or just the fact that Kirklees have realised how important it is in the future. But again, I think it's quite a good document, and I think they're all very positive documents. And the 4th bit is about biodiversity net gain, and that's much more techy, and I don't really pretend to understand all the details of it. But again, I think the principle of trying to improve biodiversity and how you can do that within developments, again, is a really positive thing. But I suppose the reflection I think would be useful for us to give as a parish council is something around the fact that there's been quite a lot of development in the valley, And to be fair, a lot of that doesn't seem to have ticked any of the boxes highlighted in these SPDs, both in terms of design, of character, about dealing with utilities being adequate. I'm thinking of drainage problems in Stoles, for example. There's been all sorts of things that you think, well, actually, these haven't been demonstrated by developers working in the valley to date. And if these new SPDs are going to provide more weight to encourage / force the developers to act, then that's got to be a good thing. And I think one thing that I know Margaret Dale had flagged up was the fact they're all very much written from a developer's perspective rather than from a thinking about the community, the impact on the community. So it was more about what house looks like rather than it being a home. And I think they're quite important points, actually. Sorry, there we are.
Thanks, Rachel. I mean, I spent quite a long time looking at them, and I wouldn't want to be relentlessly negative about what they're doing. And I welcome the opportunity to comment. I think, yeah, to completely agree with what Rachel said. I mean, it's no good being relentlessly negative about it, but there probably are issues about the way in which some of the information is presented. I too thought the house extensions alterations one was good. You know, it made a lot of sense and made the thing about the shadowing, the overshadowing. So nice diagrams which illustrate that. I'm just wondering about the way forward. Perhaps I need to have a word with. I'll contact Councillor Gould and find out where he's got. Rachel, I assume you'll be sending your comments to him.
I will do. Yeah, I'm thinking about, given the deadline's now the 14th.
Yes, we've got a little longer.
We've got a planning committee on the 14th, but I don't know if it's worth us checking whether if a drafted, because it would be nice, I think, if it's going to come in from the planning committee, the whole planning committee ought to see the final draft of the reply. So I was just wondering if Rich could check with the Kurt Lees if it was then submitted the following day, so on the 15th, whether it would still count. I would have thought it would do, but we'd need to work.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah. So if I contact Councillor Gould, find out where things are, get hold of a copy of that. And if people who haven't had a chance to comment yet, if they could find the time to do so, that would be quite good. I do think there isn't enough urgency. My main feeling isn't enough urgency about the climate about the climate crisis. Pat,
I mean, I went through it and I gave a very brief response to Councillor Gould because I really didn't feel able to add anything to anything. I mean, I thought it was comprehensive. Mostly, I mean, the biodiversity fell into two halves, and one half was interesting and the other half left me utterly confused and bemused and completely ignorant. But the others were very readable. I didn't see anything obviously missing, so I didn't give Darryl. It probably looked as though I hadn't bothered. I mean, I responded to him and said, well, I've waded through all of this and it looks fine to me. And I made one comment.
I mean, I think the point is made with some force really in the Home Valley Vision response about it being pretty inaccessible. I think it's, if you're going to ask the public to comment, perhaps you do need to present information in a slightly different way. But you know, you welcome the opportunity to respond to a consultation. Are we okay with? Are we happy with that as a way ahead? Yeah. Thank you. So we move on to item 101, issue with the shop frontage. So thanks to Rich for writing yet again about the shop frontages. I guess there's been no.
No, we have had a response. We have had a response.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the response we got was, this is from Lee Stone, who's the Development Manager Compliance Team Leader in Kirklees Planning, basically, and he says, I can assure you that the complaints have been acted on and 2 planning contravention notices have been served requesting further information from the owner in relation to the alleged unauthorised advertisements. My colleague Guy Stedman is dealing with the matter and we will update once the investigation is complete.
Good,
right.
Good, excellent.
Well, that is movement. Just a pity they didn't tell us about it earlier.
Notice has been served on both the applicants.
Not quite. Actually, they've said they've sent 2 contravention notices. They're basically asking for information first. They've not actually said that they need to take them down. They're just requesting more information first. That's as I understood it.
So they're going around the houses that they're scared of these people, and they don't want to. They want to leave Holmfirth a mess for the rest of the year and whatever. They don't get on with it, do they?
I don't think it's. I think it's just courtesy, Paul, that you ask questions before you say get rid of it.
No courtesy. Get them taken down. Let's have it nice. Let's have it proper.
Right.
We don't want Holmfirth looking like Shantytown or some Turkish barber shop. We don't want that. We want Holmfirth to be left in a nice, proper principle with nice, quiet colours, not these garish colours. And let's have these officers doing what they should do. They've done wrong putting them up. They should be told to take them down.
I mean, I think we ought to be mindful of the fact this has been recorded and available to the public, so we should be careful about our language. So first of all, Rachel, and then Tom.
I was just going to say it's really good that Kirklees are taking some action, and I think we should note that obviously we're in lockdown and therefore both premises are closed at the moment, so there may be some time. It may mean that this whole process is taking quite a bit longer than perhaps we hoped, because to be fair to the owners, there's not a lot they can do about it at the moment. So I think it's good that we've got action. It's a shame it's taken quite so long to get a response from Kirklees, because they were obviously acting on it already. So thanks for chasing it up.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, when going through Holmfirth the other day with the missus, we were having a look at a few of the shop fronts, because I mentioned about the barbers before, and she noticed it. But like there is other shops as well in Holmfirth which are quite garish with their front, like the post office with the WH Smiths, all the big things that boys in across there. Even the vape shop next to the barbers, that's not very aesthetically pleasing. So there's a lot of things which are not really the same. So we kind of need to be a bit careful about how we're going to go about. Or additionally as well, we need to kind of maybe do our own appraisal on shop fronts in Holmfirth. Because there's other places definitely which aren't great. Like these do stand out in particular, but there's others which also like are not really fitting in very much with what we think of.
I mean, it's addressed in the neighbourhood development plan, isn't it? So Michael and then Pat. Thank you.
Yeah, whilst there are others that will have quite garish advertising on, some of those will actually have the appropriate planning permission, such as the post office, WH Smiths, So, I could quite understand that the barbers may apply to have their, for planning permission for their said advertising. So, kind of watch this space. It doesn't. They may do that before they take it down and actually get planning permission. But so yes, there is lots of other advertising up and down, and some of them will have planning permission, and some of them won't. So, I mean, they're only going to enforce against ones that don't have it, aren't they? That making sense?
I think a comment was made about lockdown. Everybody's hiding behind COVID and lockdown. If it could be put up in COVID, it can be taken down in COVID. It can be put up in lockdown, it can be taken down in lockdown. It isn't necessary that anybody has to go through any hoops. They can put an enforcement on. When we asked originally, I was asked by 2 people who lived at the side of that or worked at the side of that property, what could we do? I found out Richard had put a letter of complaint in, so we took it from there. They're now asking me what is happening, and I'm saying to them that it's going through the channels. If Kirklees want to make it go through the channels, it can take right to these people. And by the time it's been up 12 months, they'll say, well, it's been up 12 months, why take it down now? Action should have been taken earlier, and it should be going on. Not just consultations with these people and being nice and pussyfooting round. We should be getting on with doing what we said we would do for the people.
Right, Pat?
I wonder if this is something we might be able to liaise with Holmfirth Business Association with, and see if we could produce some joint guidelines on the sorts of shop fronts that we want in Holmfirth.
We always had
Paul, stop it.
Paul,
but we don't need to talk to them. We had a guideline.
Paul, can you please go through the chair if you don't mind?
I think, of course, there are rules and regulations, but But if we work with the business association and everybody agrees what's kind of desirable, then we won't have to go through enforcement officers and things like that. It can happen in a civilised way, and it'll do us no harm to have closer links with the business association.
Right, I think I'm going to close down this discussion now. I mean, the neighbourhood development plan does have a whole section on shop frontages, which is well worth looking at. So can we move on to the 102, which is the footpath 60, Woolstone's footpath, which was discussed at the full council meeting, and the council agreed to maintain its objections. Following that, we've all had a copy of yet another letter from Noel Scanlon, which is yeah. Anyway, we've had the letter. I don't propose to discuss it. Right. Okay. Okay. Moving on. 103, Upper Graveyard of Lane United Reformed Church, which is really just to note that Rich has written to the resident. Okay. Noted. Noted. Thank you.
Noted.
Right. And revocation of the Huddersfield Town Centre Blueprint, item 104. Another of these SDPs, so which has been revoked. So noted.
Noted.
Thank you. So it gets us onto the Planning Standing Committee budget, and we've got a little time left. This is probably one of the probably the easiest committee for budgets, isn't it?
It's a sight simpler than Sky can tell you.
Yes. Yeah. So the only item in the budget for 2020-21 was £5,000 for neighbourhood plan. Is anybody aware of any other item? Well, perhaps Rachel, maybe come to you first. Is there likely to be expenditure associated with the?
I think there will be a little bit of expenditure, because when the responses come back from the examiner, our planning consultant will need to be involved in updating the document with the steering group. So I would expect there to be another bill, but I'm trying to remember whether, because we had a sort of indication from the consultant as to how much money that was going to cost all the way through to referendum, but I'm assuming that it's only billed along the way. So I don't know. I probably need to talk to Rich about what we've.
Right.
But I suppose we would still need the budget, even if the money's already set aside. So I'm afraid off the top of my head, I don't know how much that would be. But I guess I'd expect that to be a couple of £1,000 in reality. And I would have thought also when the referendum comes, which should be at some point in the next year, 2021-22, whilst you're not allowed to actively campaign for a yes vote, we would still need a little bit of funding to pay for posters and raise awareness so that people took part. So it's not a case of telling every, as I say, it's not a campaign, but it's an information thing. So we do need to allow a little bit of budget for that. So sorry, I haven't given any thought to what figure that should be, but I wouldn't have thought it. So what do we have? So the original budget for this year was £5,000. I would say we should probably have something similar to that. This year, possibly a bit less, 4,000.
Tom?
Yeah, I just propose that we keep it the same, and then if there's anything else that does come up in planning which does need some funds, we can buy that from that heading if we do need it, and if we've got money left over at the end of the year, then.
So is that a proposal from Rachel, 5,000? Second it, Tom? Yep. Okay, right. So can we just have a show of hands? We got 5,000 again. Yep. Paul, I can't see your hand.
I am putting my hand up because I don't think there's any need for any
okay.
planning.
So,
I think it's we're putting money in, like all the other committees are putting in, a lot more than what they need to for what is wanted. We've always used to manage the planning committee with a budget of about 500 quid, and I don't think, from what Rachel said, there's going to be much more than that spent. So the overspend is worse than underspend, I'm told. So I'm wrong. I'm wrong whichever way I do it, because I'm trying to keep the budget down and keep everybody's pockets better filled. and everybody wants to waste it on futile things that are of their own choosing. I don't disagree that Rachel needs some money in the budget for getting the final part of this done, but I would think a budget of £1,000 a bit more use than £5,000, because we forgot five.
Thanks, Paul. I guess we voted on it now, and we didn't have an amendment, so I think that's it. So we'll go with £5,000 in the budget, at least pro tem. Right. Thank you. That was the last item. We've got a 10 minutes break for those of us that are on. So